So we're a quarter of the way through the 2018 NFL season and thought it was a good idea to take a look and see who would be the award winners if the season ended already. Very early on, I'm sure some of this is going to change, but it's just my thoughts and opinions. If you don't like it, that's too bad. So let me go ahead and share with you who I would give certain awards to after 4 weeks of this 2018 NFL season. I'm going to start off with the Rookies of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know that there's one true standout. Like, there could be a little bit of recency bias if you said Calvin Ridley based off of his past 2 games. Certainly understandable. You could also say, if you wanted to be a jerk like I could, and say Will Hernandez from the Giants, since he's the highest graded interior lineman rookie by Pro Football Focus, and the same people that shitted on me during draft time for saying that there wasn't that much of a difference between Quentin Nelson and Will Hernandez, and in part they cited Pro Football Focus. Well, tell me how my ass tastes. But for the time being, I will go with Saquon Barkley. He's been very good behind a bad offensive line and playing with, frankly, a crappy quarterback. He's on pace for 1,800 all-purpose yards. He has 3 touchdowns already. He's hit some big plays. He's been a consistent presence in that Giants offense, an offense that sorely needs presence. On the defensive side of the ball, the Rookie of the Year so far to me is Derwin James of the Chargers. He's lined up all over the place. He's made things happen. He's been exactly the alpha male type that you thought Derwin James was going to be coming out of Florida State. And because the NFL is full of morons, he happened to drop all the way to pick 17 to the Chargers. Now you just think about that. Imagine thinking via these assorted NFL teams that there were all these players that were better than Derwin James. Just dumb. And a quarter of the way through the season, he's my Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with 2. And it's the 2 quarterbacks of the remaining undefeated teams in the National Football League. It's Patrick Mahomes and it's Jared Goff. You look at Jared Goff, 1,406 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. The Rams are 4-0. They look like the next version of the greatest show on turf. Jared Goff building a very strong early season resume for MVP discussion throughout the rest of the season. And then Patrick Mahomes talking about the most touchdown passes thrown through 2 starts and 3 starts, 1,200 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Chiefs also sitting at 4-0, which is even more impressive considering their defense absolutely stinks. Right now, to me, it's still early on. I would give the slight edge for Offensive Player of the Year to Mahomes, but I didn't want to leave Goff completely out there, and both of their teams are 4-0, and they're doing really awesome things at the quarterback position. 2 guys that you look at, and you think of them potentially as that next wave, that next standard of elite young quarterbacks in the National Football League. We might have 2 of them right there. A Defensive Player of the Year feels like a slam dunk right now, doesn't it? With Khalil motherfucking Mack. You got to back the Mack, baby. Bear down, bitches. The monsters of the Midway defense is back. This feels very cut and dry. Like, this is, so far, out of the different awards, the least debatable and the least controversial pick. It has to be Khalil Mack and the impact he's brought to that Bears defense, the Bears who sit in first place at 3-1 in the NFC North. He has to be the Defensive Player of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year. You know, J.J. Watt has, 5 sacks in the year, and considering the way his last couple of seasons have ended, it's good to see him back in the flow of things, but it's got to be Andrew Luck of the Colts. While granted, we just saw the Colts play again on Thursday night, and they lost to the Patriots, and they're now sitting technically at 1-4 for the season. When you look at Andrew Luck, it feels like the way it was several years back. Andrew Luck, with not a lot of talent around him offensively, and a pretty bad defense on the other side of the ball, and he finds a way to keep his team competitive, keep his team in the mix, keep them in games, and sometimes puts them in a position to win. Like Captain Andrew Luck leads the charge. But you talk about a guy that missed a lot of time over the past 2 seasons, lots of questions about his shoulder and whether or not he was ever going to be able to be that level of starting quarterback again. And while all the zip on his ball isn't there yet, and it may or may not ever be, his completion percentage is in the mid-60s. He's playing some really good football. So right now, he has to be comeback player of the year. Coach of the year, I struggled with this one a little bit because I didn't know that there was one candidate that really, truly stood out above the rest. So for the moment, I am going to go with Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans. He's got the Titans in a tie for first place in the AFC South. They're 3-1, and this is with some of the uncertainty at the quarterback position with Mariota being hurt. They have wins over the Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are two pretty quality wins. I'll go with Vrabel right now as the coach of the year. I know the Titans technically were a playoff team last year, so on and so forth, but he's come in, done good things. The confidence he showed in his team, in particular in Week 4 against the Eagles in overtime, I'm going to give him the edge right now. He's the early season coach of the year. Now, most valuable player award. Some people are going to point to Jared Goff, and some people are going to point to Patrick Mahomes. And at this particular moment in time, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. MVP tends to be kind of generous to the quarterback because the quarterback touches the ball every single time and has potentially more impact on their team's performance, good or bad, than any other position on the field. And I totally get it. And Jared Goff is having an awesome year. Patrick Mahomes, Kermit, is having a phenomenal year. But for my money, whether you want to call it homer pick or not, I don't feel like it is. The most valuable player at this moment in time is Khalil Mack of the Chicago Bears. When you look at the impact he has had, when you look at the difference he has made, 4 straight games with a forced fumble sack, the impact he has had on the players around him. When you look at the Bears defense in 2017, they weren't a terrible unit at all. They were tied for 7th in sacks, 11th versus the run, 10th in total yards allowed, averaging 20 points per game. They were like a top 10 to 12 defensive unit. Now, this year, the Bears are an elite defensive unit. And when you look at what the Bears did in the offseason, the majority of the work they put in was on the offensive side of the ball. And even if you want to say, well, they spent a top 10 pick on Roquan Smith, that's true. But even Roquan hasn't made that much of a true impact as of yet, and that is true. The one major change they made on the defensive side of the ball was Khalil motherfucking Mack. Now, a quarter of the way through the 2018 season, the Bears lead the league in sacks. Their defense is second against the run, where Khalil Mack has also had an impact too, not just as a pass rusher. 4th in total yards and allowing 16.2 points per game. They're top 5 in the league in points allowed, top 5 against the run, top 5 in total yards allowed, and they lead the league in sacks and getting pressure on teams' quarterbacks. The Bears are sitting there at 3-1, even with some of the ups and downs of Trubisky and what he's done so far this year. To me, it's very easy to point to one player and see the tangible impact he had on his team. Like if you look at this from an NBA standpoint, you could make some type of argument that every year that LeBron James, being the best player in the NBA, when he gets the Cleveland Cavaliers sorry asses to the NBA Finals, he's the most valuable player. But sometimes there could be a little bit of this, we kind of take it for granted. But now when he goes to the Los Angeles Lakers, and you didn't bring any other big-time stars with him, that Lakers team's finished, let's say, in the top 4 in the Western Conference and they win 50 games, LeBron James is winning the MVP award, and it might be damn near unanimous. Why? Because now you can more easily quantify and put a tangible value on his impact to a team. And I can certainly say that even with Mahomes, it wasn't like they were a terrible team with Alex Smith. The Rams were a good team last year with Jared Goff. But the Bears are at a whole different level now because of Khalil motherfucking Mack. You look at the impact he's had on that defense, the impact he's had overall on that team. To me, beyond question right now, he's the league MVP right now. I don't anticipate that vote going that way the course of the entire season. But if he continues to have the type of impact he's had the first 4 games over the next 12, who freaking knows? He plays a premium position, and he's getting paid a premium, and by God, he's producing premium results. So that's my MVP, is Khalil Mack. You don't like it, you can kiss my Bears ass.